Thanks for watching! If you like this video, be sure to read The Tale of the Order of the Blue Maiden. It's a high-flying adventure. Available now on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Nobles, and Kobo. Or go to thetale.quest. You've never heard a tale like this. The backgrounds for today's video were provided by the Spacebar. Visit thespacebar.store today. No financial consideration was given, only production assets.
Sorry I'm late, everybody. What did I miss? Hi, Chaz.
Is that how you greet your Emperor?
Oh, right. Sorry. All hail Emperor Palpate. Honk, 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 honk.
Where have you been? Our top-secret Deathsea plans have been leaked to the rebellion.
Whoa, what the Sith am I looking at?
These are the Deathsea plans. This is the most potent weapon in the galaxy.
Is something wrong with that thing? Why is one spear bigger than the other one? Is it supposed to be like that?
Yes, it was designed that way.
I don't know, man. That's not normal.
What? No, that's normal. That's totally normal.
And one of them's all cockeyed? That's pretty whack, bro. I mean, don't they have to be aligned? How do you aim with that thing?
It's supposed to be for temperature fluctuations. You know, space is supposed to get really hot and then really cold.
I don't know, man. That ain't right. I think you need to have that looked at. Oh no, my cousin had something like that. You should definitely have that checked out. Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Who asked you?
You gotta have that checked out, man.
I've had it checked out by literally dozens of specialists, alright?
I know someone if you need a referral.
Shut up, you.
Hey, man, you don't have to be ashamed of this. We're your boys. You can tell us anything. Yeah, we're here for you.
I'm not ashamed. I just don't want to share my business with everyone. Is that okay with you?
I really think you need someone to get in there with some, like, special creams or oils or something to get that other little guy to drop.
We use nothing but the finest crankshaft lubrication money can... You know what? That doesn't matter right now. You're under suspicion of espionage. I find your tardiness disturbing.
No. I was late because my alarm clock didn't go off. Plus, it was my turn to take the political dissidents to detention.
What are you in for? I called Emperor Palpate a Bantapoodle on Facebook. Then who is responsible for the security leak?
Well, don't look at me. Secretary of War fighting Put Hooksuth over there is the one discussing classified intel on an unsecured Chatterbait account.
If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. No more beardos.
Detain him.
Yes, sir.
Launch a full investigation. Make sure that his hands are clean.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years.
Come on. Really? No more drunk axe throwing for
I don't
you.
really wash my hands.
Wow, arresting the Secretary of War? That's pretty drastic.
He is a security risk. I may be evil, but I'm not a complete fucking idiot. Don't worry. I still plan on censoring the woke media and launching a full-scale land invasion of Venezuela. Wait. God. What have you done to your force pike?
Well, I was driving home from work the other night, and a lightsaber fell out of the sky and nearly cut my speeder in half. I was able to salvage it, and I figured I might as well mod my pike with it and give it a little bit more oomph, if you know what I mean.
Be careful with that thing, you idiot!
And now we go to Nuba, where Senator Can Box has just been awarded the Galactic Peace Prize.
Misa dedicate this big bombast peace prize to Misa bestie Annie, who never ever slaughtered any younglings in cold blood.
No. I deserve that Galactic Peace Prize for personally ending the Clone Wars.
But didn't you also start the Clone Wars?
And now they won't give it to me just because I staged a little massacre on Garmin. I blame that sleepy Chancellor Valium and the lunatic left of the rebellion.
Why? That dude hasn't been in office for years. Hey, I know what'll cheer you up. Destroying the rebellion with that other super weapon that you hyped during your campaign.
What are you doing?
You should release the Epstein files.
No,
What? Why not?
because... reasons. Let's just say that every day's another wonderful secret.
But you should do it.
Don't do it.
I didn't vote for this!
Hey guys, how you doing? We're here back in space today. I'm just making a new saber, a different kind of saber. Always doing these things under a time crunch because of these events that I go to. This time I'm going to the Saber Legion 6, which is going to be in Las Vegas. I'm going to be participating in the heavy exotics division of the competition. So for that, I'm going to want to build a saber pike, which is something I haven't built up to this point. I've used most of the other kinds of lightsabers, and the saber pike is the one that I haven't had a chance to get my hands on. So I'm gonna go ahead and make one. I've actually had plans to make one for a while. I just haven't had the time, Time is, the most valuable thing of all. I've amassed a bunch of parts here. There's some cool things in here that I want to make a video about at some point. This one is very cool. It's a Oreo Suba. That's made by Tony Zaldua, who's one of our local sabersmiths. This is an Necronix saber hilt, which I acquired from a Facebook group. It's really just very cool, understated hilt. Eventually I need to install that though. Right now it's empty. So right now let's get our parts for our saber pike here. Haven't yet quite made up my mind how I'm gonna put it together yet. Might need that. We're definitely gonna need this. I had this little 30-inch blade set aside for it. Now I might make another custom blade for this. Now this is going to be a key component of our saber pike here. This is a broom handle. The rules say that the saber pike can only be a maximum of 72 inches, which includes the blade. The hilt itself can only be a maximum of 44 inches. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge here. We're going to have to cut this thing to length. I've measured this is already too long. First things first, we got to remove these little plastic bits. I don't know how I'm going to do that exactly. Oh boy. Okay. I don't know if this table is going to make good leverage necessarily. Okay. This is actually in there pretty sturdily. Yeah, okay. Well, I've managed to tear up the little plastic bit. It seems like what I need is more leverage. Oh no. Okay, that was bad. All I managed to do was just bend my aluminum pole there, so that was completely the wrong thing to do. Let's worry about that later. I'm thinking, since I'm gonna have to cut this anyway, maybe I should just cut the ends of it off. Although now, this has got me wondering if this is necessarily the best material to make this implement from. Anyway, let's put that aside for now. Let's put together the components of our saber here. I did think I was gonna use this switch housing initially, because it's long, it's nice and long. I did have this one, which was a backup for a different saber that I was working on. Maybe what I should do right now is actually install the core so that I know what I'm kind of dealing with in terms of clearance up here in this emitter. I'm just gonna untwist the emitter here from the switch housing. And what's unusual about this switch housing is that it's kind of longer than the most of the standard LGT switch housings, and also it has male threads on both ends of it. I'm using this one just because it has got the extra length, because it's a saber pike and not a standard saber. I'm kind of worried that the front end's gonna be a little bit too heavy. Let's worry about that when we get to it. For now, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and install this core here, which should be simple enough. Nope, it's upside down. There we go. Screws and my Allen key here. Okay, so this part's always a little tricky, because you kind of have to hold your breath. Hopefully the screws catch the threads and everything's all lined up properly. I've got these really long screws here, because you have to kind of summon the button all the way up from inside up into the slot there. That can be kind of difficult sometimes. There we go, nice and snug. All right. And there we have our core installed into our switch housing. With the core exposed, you can see that we're gonna have a little bit of issues here putting together our saber pike, because when you have a standard hilt, I'll just pull out this Necronix hilt in order to demonstrate. When you put your core in there, you've got pretty much plenty of room for your the rest of your core and your speaker and your LED array. But because we're making a saber pike, you have to deal with other things like where do you insert your long handle here. So we've got to create even more space for the long handle in order for it to get good adherence to the head area. And then now we've got all this heavy stuff on the front end. You got to balance it with something on the back. Please ignore the soft drink. That is not a brand endorsement. I'm just thirsty, okay? So let's just blur that out there. Oh, I guess what I haven't done is add the back screw yet. Okay. You gotta add the screw in the back. And that's one of these weird little wood screws, which I don't really understand why you would use a wood screw in an electronic component. I guess maybe it's just so that it doesn't have to be quite as precise, is my guess. But it really makes me feel uncomfortable jamming the sharp screw into an electronic circuit board. But you kind of have to in order to keep everything from jostling around. You don't want to tighten that one too much. You don't want to strip the threads on that one. I think this came charged already. Yep, this was already charged from the factory. And this has been sitting in my house for like months. All right. Got some nice colors all ready to go. Cool, let's turn that off.
Resistance is dead. The war is over.
Words of encouragement from Kylo Ren, everybody. Now, another reason I went ahead and opted to use this extra long switch housing with the double male ends is because it forced me to use this coupler on the emitter here, and the coupler gives us a little bit of extra room to seat a blade in there next to the LED housing. Because the LED housing really does have a chance of jamming us up, because this emitter is already kind of short to begin with, and it's kind of heavy too. I did really want to use this emitter. I think I bought this emitter for the Greatsword project, but I ended up not using it because it didn't fit aesthetically with the rest of the hilt. Initially, I really wanted to use this section for this part of the Saber Pike here. This section is longer than this other spare piece that I have. You notice that this section is actually starting to get pretty long, and it's going to get even longer. So maybe I'm thinking now I should probably save this part for the tail. When we add the blade here, we're going to have a lot of weight on the front end of this. So I'm going to use the shorter end here. So now the way that we're going to attach this to our pole, we need to use an emitter. And this is a trick that I picked up from another YouTube channel whose name is escaping me right now. This doesn't fit right now because, oh, wait, actually. Huh, weird. Did that not fit on the other ones? Oh, I guess it did. Maybe it's just this end that didn't fit. Yeah, okay, so the two ends have different widths there. So this end actually totally fits. Now, of course, we have a problem where we've got two male ends here, so we got ourselves a handy-dandy little coupler. And another reason that we need this coupler is also to let the sound escape from the speaker. Because we got the speaker coming out of our head section here, and if we screw something onto here and then we just jam a broom handle in there, the sound's not going to be able to escape. So now we've got this coupler here, and now the sound is able to escape out of these little vent holes, which is perfect. Now you notice that this is a gold color. I didn't exactly plan that. What happened is that I bought this part as a kind of a scratch and dent discount. This is our head section right here. All right, now we're gonna put together the tail end. So I've got these parts that I'm going to make the tail section out of. So this section was one that I had picked up specifically for this project. I think I actually got it for the Greatsword project, but I ended up wanting to use it on this one. I had a couple of different pommels. This pommel looks great as a spear butt, and these are some parts that I just had laying around. This is just a long kind of a handle section, and these are called VHC rings, and these were actually initially parts of this crossguard hilt that I have, and I didn't realize that they weren't part of the actual hilt itself. You actually remove them, and I realized it a little bit too late because I ended up painting them, and that's why they have these weird little marks on there. You know, the kind of gold color adds a little bit to the aesthetic. They look a little bit weathered, a little bit dinged up, so that's fine. So assembling these is going to be really easy. Put these little rings here as little accents, so the gold kind of ties in with the gold of this emitter part over here. Put this wrapped handle section towards the center, and then this section on here on the end. All right, so we put these together and we measure these, and this is about 24¼ inches. Okay, so math is not exactly my best subject here, but we're shooting for 44 inches. We've got 24¼ So that means we have to add 19¾ inches. Now that doesn't account for the space inside these empty tubes here that can accommodate the broom handle. Here, this can only go up to this far, which actually I'm a little bit worried about. I'm wondering if that's enough space. Hopefully the epoxy will hold that in place, you know? We need to measure the depth here, because we need to find out how much of the actual handle we need. This has a plug depth of 10 inches. So we can just add a clean 10 inches of that. So that's now 19 into 10 is 29¾ all right? 29¾ and then we're gonna add 3¼ plug depth here. So we add that to 29¾ 3/4 of an inch plus 1/4 is an inch. So we got an even 30. So we've got an even 30 inches plus 3 is 33 inches. So we need a broom handle length of 33 inches. I wish we could cut off this section here because you know, cleaning off all these stickers is a pain in the butt. That's how my math works out. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes mistakes are made. We're gonna have to cut out our dent bent, that's for sure. Not the most scientific measurement. Oh, that's great. That's right in front of the stupid little sticker mess that I made, so that's good. Alright, so we're here in a less flammable part of the spaceship, and I've also had to close the bay doors so that my space neighbors don't complain about the space noise, even though no one can hear you complain in space. Anyway, I just put on flap wheel onto the grinder here, so I just gotta clean up these edges a little bit. Alright guys, so our aluminum tube is cut. I kind of tried to finish the edges, but I don't know, I didn't do a very good job. But anyway, it's done well enough. This is going to be inside the hilt, so it doesn't really matter. Don't have to, you know, pay too close attention to it. Alright, so I'm just going to pop this in. I'm just going to measure our hilt here. 43 inches, which is a little short, but that's okay. This is kind of squished all the way in. This tail section has some overlap, so we can just pull that out a little bit, and that'll be fine. And so we can, oh, I actually marked it before. Just pull it there, and that should make it exactly 44 inches here. Oh, actually, this is still a little bit shy. There we go, 44 inches. Put a new mark on there. Now, have a slight problem with our aluminum tube here. The aluminum tube is just a little bit too narrow and doesn't quite fit snugly in there. So this is gonna be kind of flopping around in there, and that's not good for many reasons. One, it's gonna be really hard to glue it in there. And two, even if we do manage to glue it in there, all the repeated motion is gonna cause this tube to bend, and it's caused the glue to break, and it's gonna cause all kinds of problems. So we want it to fit more snugly in there. Tried to think of a solution, and the solution is this diffusion material that I had laying around. I had this diffusion material because I thought I would use it in some of these trans white blades and make it so that the different colored lights didn't show so harshly on the inside of the blade. I ended up not using them just because I feel like they make the blades dimmer. So basically what I did is I cut some of this to length, so you can just fit that in there, all right? Now, you look in there, the diffusion material is narrower even than the tube. So how's that gonna work, Xerus? So the solution I came up with is that I cut a slit in the material. It's nice and rigid, so it retains its shape, which is good. Because what I wanna do is I wanna come in here on one end, and I'm gonna slip my aluminum rod into that diffusion material, okay? And now with this kind of wrapped around there like that, is that I can go ahead and put that in the tube, and now this isn't nearly as loose and flopping around in there. And there's still a little bit of room for glue. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to go ahead and epoxy some of this diffusion material on both ends of my blade here. I got my 3 1/4 inch section here, and I got my 10 inch section over here. So I need to cut a slot there. Anytime I use epoxy, I get a little nervous. Am I supposed to break this? I shouldn't have thrown away the instructions. Gonna face this upwards, get rid of all the air. Oh, okay, shit. Pour that out. Okay, see if that's enough. All right, put my cap on there. Take my little plunger and mix this stuff. All right, it's supposed to get it on there within 5 minutes. So how do I do this? I guess I gotta make like a little taco or something, right? I wanna get it on my gloves. Getting it on my gloves. I'm just automatically getting it on my gloves. Let's try and get it on there. I'm twisting it around kind of like a hot dog on a stick to get that epoxy in there. Another thing I kind of might want to do is actually cut a little strip out of this spare material that I have to take up some of that extra space. I might need a rubber band for this. Alright, well that was interesting. We'll see in a little while if this was worth the hubbub here. Time to repeat the process. This time I think I'll do things a little bit differently. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut strip ahead of time. Cutting this stuff is a lot of fun. It makes interesting noises. Instead of using that little squeegee thing, I'll just pour it directly into the sleeve here. And then that way I can just mix it inside the tube itself. Put our cap back on that before it spills out everywhere. Alright, just gonna wedge that in there. Oh wow, that stuff is already stiffening up. Alright, seems to be kind of working. Kind of smells funny. It smells like burnt toast. Let's get a little bit more down here. There's a lot of this stuff just absorbing into my glove, which probably isn't good. Gotta mix it up. Spread it along here. I twisted it around, try to get it nice and consistent here. This stuff should already be hardening up pretty good. All right, let's put that on there. Maybe the other way. There we go. Uh-oh. There's a bunch of epoxy on the table. That's not good, which means now it's probably on my gloves and also on the camera. As I was affixing these things to the end here, I totally forgot that I was going to add an element in the center. Probably should have done that first, since adding things to the middle is going to be a lot harder once there's stuff pasted on each end. Luckily, this thing is actually pretty wide and will actually fit over all of this glue and all these rubber bands and stuff. I've kind of experimented with this a little bit, and I found that if I wrap a little bit of foam around this will actually be the perfect width to accept this doohickey here. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to glue this foam right around the middle here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to know how this is gonna be balanced and where to put this exactly, but I'm just gonna put it just a touch closer to the front than the back. I guess let's get our epoxy on there. Let's just dive in. No time like the present. Gloop, 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 gloop. Gloop, gloop, gloop. Gloop, gloop. At this point, there's epoxy on everything. There's really no avoiding it. Is there a way to spread this around without getting it absolutely everywhere? And I suspect the answer to that is no. I do kind of have to turn it around to mix the stuff. Does reminding me a lot of hot dog on a stick. Now, you ever go to hot dog on a stick and just pour the mustard and ketchup on there and just spin your hot dog around? No? Just me? Okay. Yeah, I'm a weirdo, I guess. So I think the best thing to do will be to get this handle on there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna real fast pour some epoxy on the inside of this, knowing that full well that it's gonna get everywhere. The clock is ticking. All right, I'm gonna cut these rubber bands off. Epoxy on the scissors, there's epoxy everywhere. Now it's all over the pole here. What a disgrace. You can kind of wipe it down, but you can't really wipe it off completely. It's gonna just probably be on there forever. All right, so now I gotta get the rubber band on there because I didn't anticipate this gap to be so wide. I really should have thought of that. Actually, wasn't I gonna put it on the other side? Can I do that? Oh, okay, that'll work. Well, we've gotten our handle more or less how we want it here. So we'll see what happens once the epoxy dries. How long does it take for this stuff to dry? Where are the directions? Give me the directions. Set time, 5 minutes. Handling time, 30 minutes. Cure time, 24 hours. Okay, so basically this won't be ready for practice today. Oh well, that's life. Okay, well, it looks like our epoxy has successfully cured here. Now we gotta remove these rubber bands here. I thought I was gonna have to cut these rubber bands off. Some of these are just completely flaking apart here. That's okay, I didn't really anticipate saving them. Okay, everything looks good for us to proceed. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna test fit some of these now. Take this pommel off. Like this could be a kind of a snug fit there. Problem here is that maybe it's a little bit too snug. Watch, now this will never come out again. Okay, it's got a little bit of play, not a whole lot. So that's good, that's actually a good sign. All right, now let's test the other piece here. Okay, not as snug. So I think I'm gonna want a slightly more snug fit. Ordinarily I add these to blades. Just a little bit of packing tape is good for making those fits really snug. All right, now I'm just adding a single layer of packing tape to the end of this. You don't want to go around and around and around because you don't want to add a ton of thickness because you're really trying to get it to just the right snugness. You don't want any folds or air bubbles under there, so you gotta try and be as precise as possible when you're doing this. Now, I only intended to go around once, so I'm gonna have to cut off the excess there. Oh, that was sloppy, but we'll get the job done. Okay, so now that's fitting nice and snug. Good, 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 good. All right, so that pretty much ends right where we needed to. Let's just put that aside for now. Take the X-Acto knife and trim off all the excess tape. Clean it up a little bit so we don't have any tape showing. How do we do this? I feel like we should do the bottom end first just because it's gonna be a little bit trickier. Initially I didn't want to epoxy the whole length of this because I wanted the flexibility of being able to remove this part and maybe use it for something else. But after having another core snap in half the other day, the more solid I could make it, the better. I definitely want this stuff facing in the right directions. I wasn't sure if I wanted this as the trigger finger or as the pinky. So I think the best thing to do is maybe just put the epoxy in there right in the opening and then just let the tube naturally just slide it throughout the whole structure. So let's just get to it. Let's just try this. Yeah, let's just jump into it. Both feet. What could possibly go wrong? Working with this epoxy is not exactly easy. So we're supposed to squeeze out all the air. Ugh, okay, no, you don't want it on the outside. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Get it off, get it off. I know that if I put some on the rod, it's gonna get pushed out. It's gonna get shoved out. So, all right, I'll just drip a little bit more in there so that it drips further down. Get my stirring spoon here and kind of make sure that the stuff mixes. All right. Let's put it on. It's actually a lot less snug than it was before. Now I'm twisting it as it goes. So try to getting it into place there. Oh no, shoot, went too far. Oh no. It's all over my gloves, it's all over the saber now. Okay, all right, let's let it rest. I need a paper towel, give me a paper towel. I didn't realize it's just all over my right glove here. It's all over the table. That stinks. What bums me out the most is kind of ruining the texture of these nice aluminum parts. The excess is all getting pushed out the back here, so hopefully it doesn't come up these threads too badly. Alright, let's get this other piece on here. Okay, so I've kind of made an important decision here. And that decision is that I am not going to bother with timing shims, just because the position of these little holes, they're off center. They're just kind of a little bit off the center from the back here. If I hold this down, they're kind of going off this way. What timing shims do is that they basically take up space between these two threaded items here. So what happens is that they space it out so that you can screw them in not as far, basically. And they take up the space so that when you screw it in tightly, it lands where you want it. But these holes are off in such a manner that I would have to basically go all the way around back here in order to line it up. The other thing about these timing shims is that they're not precise. They won't necessarily land where you want them to. If I use timing shims, these holes might land here, or they might land here, you know, somewhere where it might not even be worth the effort to do that in the first place. But I'm primarily concerned with the fact that I really don't want to be taking up space in these threads, because I've already seen how easy it is for them to come out sometimes and for the core to get snapped when these things come apart. So I'm not going to deal with those at all, because I feel like the timing shims will weaken the overall integrity of the structure. So I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm just going to live with the fact that these holes are just slightly off and just, you know, never look at them and never think about it. I think that's the better way to go. Still getting epoxy everywhere. I'm going to epoxy this with this on here just because I want to get the positioning right. But then as soon as I get it on there, I'm going to take it off because there's going to be epoxy dribbling everywhere and I don't want to get it on the speakers. So let's get the epoxy, pull the cap off. Actually, I don't want to use too much because I know it does not really a lot of space in there. I don't want it to go out through the holes. That would be bad. I'm going to tumble it around so that it mixes a little bit. So find the top. Okay, so this is the bottom of the spear. Pike here, the glaive, whatever we're calling it. The finger grooves run on the bottom. So jam that in there. I'm just gonna kind of twist it around in both directions. Kind of pull it out a little bit. I want the stuff to spread everywhere. All right, let's unscrew the head here because I know the glue is gonna be coming out right about now. All right. The glue's not really coming out. It's not pouring out like I thought it would, so that's good. That's good news. Just went ahead and dabbed out any, you know, errant epoxy in there. Now that I know that the glue isn't like overflowing in a really bad way, I'm gonna go ahead and screw this back on here just to make sure that the alignment is correct. Looking down the barrel of that to see how the elements line up, it looks pretty okay. Now I'm a little bit scared to rotate this because I don't want to inadvertently move the element here while the epoxy's drying, so I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it. So we're almost done. Just gotta let this cure, and hopefully by tomorrow we'll have a functioning saber pike, which is great because I busted all of my other heavy weapons. My greatsword, the emitter came flying out, my two-bladed staff also just snapped, and I destroyed one of my cores. So this saber pike is the only remaining way I have of entering the heavy exotics division of TSL 6. So hopefully this will work out. Okay, well. It's been several hours, and this saber pike now feels nice and cured. I added the pommel on there, so everything's looking nice and complete now. All we gotta do is just, add our finishing touches. First, what I would like to do is, because I'm relying on the epoxy to hold this part together, especially the head, because this is the most vulnerable. Not only because it's at the front, but because it's also the heaviest, and also because it has the shortest amount of, connection area here. I've only got like a 3 1/4 inches of connection, as opposed to a whole 10 inches down here. I'm worried that this epoxy eventually will become brittle and maybe break. So what I want to do is shore this up with some mechanical fasteners so that we're not relying entirely on the glue. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can drill into those holes with a really tiny drill bit. And then we're going to see if we can add some kind of fastener to that. So let's find ourselves a drill bit. Just look at all this brass dust. And it looks like gold. Fool's gold. As with everything I do, there is always a good chance that I will destroy everything that I have accomplished up to this point. This actually kind of looks like it fits in there exactly. That's 7/64. Although I'm a little reticent to use this one just because I don't want to destroy the threads. Let's see what else we got. Okay, this looks good. And what is this? 3:30 seconds. Okay. Well, that wasn't too hard. Okay, good. Alright, in terms of fasteners, what kind of fasteners do we want to use? Now, anytime you get LGD parts from a reseller, usually they give you a little bag full of parts. And those parts typically include, like, these little kind of like wood screws, basically. We could try using those, or we could use some pop rivets. Let's see if the pot rivets even fit. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and try the screw. We might strip this screw on the way in, but we might get it in and anchored enough so that, you know, it doesn't really come back out. I'm a little hesitant to use these because they have that sharp point, but if we can just force it in there, and hopefully it'll just never come back out again. A little dab of glue in these holes so that the screw will never want to come back out. Okay, so far so good. So let's get our glue. Let's put some glue in there. I apologize if there's any accidental close-ups of my crotch. These space pants land a little bit differently than my other garb. Hopefully it keeps everything glued down the length of the screw, because I think we're also kind of tapping the aluminum broom handle in there, because I do feel quite a bit of resistance going in. That's nice and solid. Now the only thing left to screw down is this section right here. There's only one screw hole and it's right here. And if I screw into that, you'll actually see the screw. It'll be exposed. I'm gonna hold off putting a screw here just because I don't really think that's too much of a safety issue. If this does break off, the sleeve can be easily removed from the whole assembly. The foam will just kind of slide up and down between these 2 points. And if I really need to, I can just peel it off. This came in at right below the maximum measurement, which is 44 inches. Good work. All right, good job. So now we gotta fit it with a blade. I had this blade laying around. This is one of the first blades that I bought. I believe this is a 30-inch blade. You're allowed to have, I think, between 39 and a 22-inch blade, but your maximum for your whole saber pike is 72 inches. So let's measure this and see how much we gotta take off the blade here. This is longer than my measuring tape. Okay, where's my Sharpie? I got an idea. So I just had it, I just marked the blade where it is fully seated in the emitter. So we just gotta measure from the tip to the emitter line. And that is a hair just below 28 inches. 44 plus 28 is 44 plus 28 is 44 plus 28 is 60. Hang on, guys, I just haven't had my coffee yet, which is especially weird because I don't drink coffee. 64, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. Exactly 72 inches. Okay, great, fantastic. Let me just double check that. Yeah, comes in at just about a quarter of an inch under 72 inches. Fantastic. So actually we know we have about a quarter of an inch to work with. One of the things I really like about this emitter is that it has 2 holes like this, rather than just one. I don't know why they make emitters with just one screw hole. That seems like asking for trouble. All right, let's fire this puppy up, guys. All right, here we go. Looks like we got ourselves a fully functioning saber pike here. And I'm ready to go to TSL 6 and, you know, see how I do in that heavy exotics competition.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but so for this, it's like light up the whole place? Yes. So depending on the background, they disappear. They really disappear. So then you have to know what the body's doing that leads to that, and there's so many layers. So this, God bless. I see it all. Unless I have it. I'm not used to yeah, just to cover all the angles. Yeah. Oh no. That's kind of cool.
I forgot what they called it, like national like even divide machines and just use free for all. And so like eventually
yeah, like you just see them going at it?
Yeah, well no, people turn their light off and just see the light. Yeah. I'm like if they're there to like get around someone, turn it on and then
Mobility, like for mobility, it's kind of cheap.
Oh, we're still in the oh. Yeah, I should have known how long this is.
I like how hard you throw that. Who are you using?
I'm looking at all of these.
That's it for today, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget our motto, no li timere puttuge, don't be afraid to suck, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
6 months later.
Watch out!